जब जब पृथ्वी पे कोई बड़ी आपत्ति आती है, भगवान विष्णु स्वर्ग से उतरकर धरती पे आते हैं।
उसका नाम है राम।
इसे मार दो।
अब हम युद्ध में भाग लेंगे।
कपड़ा तेरे बाप का, तेल तेरे बाप का, आग भी तेरे बाप की और जलेगी भी तेरे बाप की.
Why did Adipurush fail? But before that, some positives. The music, Ajay Atul, were fantastic as usual. The dialogue isn't all that bad.
आपका स्वभाव है कि आपको पार नहीं किया जा सकता। मेरा संकल्प है कि मैं लंका पहुंच कर रहूंगा।
लेकिन मैं हार भी गया ना, तो मैं आ रहा हूं।
There is some very interesting mythos surrounding the movie. Ravan never touches Sita. I mean literally, even when kidnapping her. Ravan's hand is bleeding while playing the veena. Lakshman never makes eye contact with Sita, which is consistent with the books. Saif Ali Khan's sincere attempt to create some magic out of the material he has been given. Coming back to why did Adipurush fail? There are obvious reasons which a multitude of reviewers have already pointed out. Bad CGI, poorly adapted screenplay, bad casting, deviations from the original text. But, there are many movies with bad CGI, bad dialogues,
जो मैं बोलता हूँ वो मैं करता हूँ, जो मैं नहीं बोलता हूँ वो मैं definitely करता हूँ,
and bad casting which turned out to be successful. Even the 1993 Yugo Sako Ramayana, to which Adipurush was compared endlessly, also exercised some creative liberties while making the movie. Ram is supposed to be dark-skinned. Also, this scene was slightly more accurate in Adipurush, just slightly. We'll get back to that later. One can argue that it was the culmination of all of these flaws which led to an unmitigated disaster. However, I believe the problem goes much deeper, a deeper malaise affecting the entirety of Bollywood. That is the lack of authentic creativity. India has seen a lot of Ramayana adaptations. Dadasaheb Phalke, the father of Indian cinema, made a Ramayana-themed movie in 1917 named Lanka Dahan. Incidentally, this was also the first Indian movie to incorporate the funda of double role. Ram and Sita were played by the same actor named Anna Salunke. Another known example is Ram Rajya, released in 1943. This is the only movie Mahatma Gandhi watched during his lifetime because, well, he was against the idea of movies itself. Yugo Sako's Ramayana, arguably the most popular adaptation made in 1992, which was temporarily banned. Sita Sings the Blues, made in 2008, another animated feature which was banned as well. Mani Ratnam's Ravan, a modern retelling incorporating the Stockholm Syndrome. Two more animated features named Ramayana the Epic and Love Kush, released in 2010. The most recent Ramayana-themed movie was made in Thailand, named Yak, the Giant King. Out of all the adaptations mentioned, there has not been a single movie as lazy, insipid, wasteful and trite as Om Raut's Adipurush, boasting proudly of a budget of more than 500 or 600 crores depending on who you ask, and producing an adaptation with almost no redeeming value at all. All of the technical flaws mentioned previously, albeit being large, dwarf in front of the four core reasons as to why this movie truly failed.
Ramayana is so large that it is impossible for anybody to understand. If they say that they understand Ramayana, they are fools or they are lying, one of the two.
Right from the poster and promotional material for Adipurush, there is a problem in which how Ram is depicted. Prabhas is portrayed alone, deviating from the traditional depictions of Ram alongside Sita, Lakshman and Hanuman. Traditional portrayals of Ram in India's Ramayana narratives, art and temple visuals reveals a rich tapestry of perspectives. Beyond Ram's unquestionable valor as a warrior, the focus extends to his beauty, his delicate nature and his remarkable composure in challenging times. Let us go back to Yugo's Ramayana to explore these points. Every single participant in Sita Swayamvar is more muscular than the one before and definitely more physically endowed than Ram. This is not an accident. It is by design. Ram was never supposed to be a muscular man. He is always portrayed as lean but with tremendous fighting prowess. This is why Prabhas is such a poor casting choice. He looks like he lives in the gym. He would have made a great Bhim, but Ram, no. In Ramayana, there are only 2 times when Ram is truly enraged. Once after Sita's capture,
नाश कर दूंगा उसका, नाश कर दूंगा उसका।
and the second time during her fake out death and Lakshman's injury.
रुको, रुको, रुक जाओ।
In the first case, we see Lakshman being the voice of reason and calming him down. Ram apologizes for his rage and thanks Lakshman for keeping him grounded. In Adipurush, Prabhas's face is so wooden you could carve furniture out of it. I understand it's difficult to act when you're surrounded by green screen, but come on, try a little. His expressions ranged from mildly annoyed to absolutely livid, the complete opposite of what Ram stands for. Look at this scene. What is the emotion Prabhas is feeling right now? How about this? How about this one? Also, a couple of dialogues showcasing his pacifism aren't enough. It is his actions which need to corroborate this quality as well.
जानकी में मेरे प्राण बसते हैं और मर्यादा मुझे अपने प्राणों से भी अधिक प्रिय है.
While praying to the Samudra Devata, in Ramayana, Ram is shown worshipping for 7 days and 7 nights before the Samudra Devata grants his wish. While this is inaccurate, Ram worships for 3 days and then pulls out the Brahmastra in a fit of rage. It is very much in line with the Ram we have seen thus far. In Adipurush, there is no tapasharya. Raghav is trigger happy and quick to pull out his divine weaponry to extort favor from the sea god. Violence for Ram should always be the last resort, not the immediate one. The battle with Kumbhakaran is another great example of this. In Adipurush, the killing of Kumbhakaran is typical, like in an action movie. Raghav is ruthless, almost cold-blooded in his strikes. While this would have been suitable for any other action film or hero, Ram requires a different approach.
क्षमा करना कुंभकर्ण, मैं अपना कर्तव्य निभा रहा हूं।
Two blows, one to bring him down and the other to kill. And after he's done, he says this.
अच्छा होता अगर वो मेरा मित्र होता विभीषण। मुझे दुख है कि कुंभकर्ण का वध मेरे हाथों हुआ।
Ram's attachment with Dharma, his demeanor, his relationships with the king and his queens, his brothers, his subjects is much better portrayed. This movie is obsessed with Dharma.
परंतु जो काम तुमको करना है, धर्म समझकर करना है।
जैसे पति का धर्म है, स्त्री का भी वही है। जो भाग्य आपका है, वो मेरा भी है।
इसे मार दो।
भैया, ये तो राजा के धर्म के विरुद्ध है।
He touches the feet of the woman who sent him away. He selflessly hands over the kingdom to his brother Bharat, who, with a heavy heart, must complete Dasharath's wishes. None of this is shown or even remotely mentioned in Adipurush. In fact, by the time we have reached the 45th minute of the movie, Raghav has spoken only 4 lines of dialogue. Just 4.
रघुकुल रीत सदा चली आई। तुम राजकुमारी हो जानकी। तुमने कुछ नहीं किया शेष।
How is such little dialogue supposed to establish his character and his past?
What is Adipurush? We are not calling it Ramayana. We are calling it Adipurush because it is one section within the Ramayana. Yes. It is the Yuddha Kand which we are trying to show. And again, I will say that it is only a small portion within the Yuddha Kand.
Agreed, but showcasing past events is necessary in building Ram's character and helps the audience in understanding the protagonist's nature and intentions, which is a great segue to my next point.
What are we doing today, sir? That Ramayana made an impact on me as a child. Today we are making Adipurush to make an impact on the future, the youth of this country.
This is a problematic and deeply contradictory statement. If this is an introduction of Ram to a newer generation, his demeanor and character should be at the forefront. He should be properly fleshed out. Dubious, poorly choreographed action scenes are not going to do that. This movie has many such things for which you need to have a prior knowledge of Ramayana to completely understand. Who or what exactly is Jatayu? This is never explained. Ram's father has died off screen. Such a major event in Ram's life is just glossed over. Shabri just comes out of the woods and feeds him jhute bear. Like, who is Shabri? Why is she roaming in the forest in the night? Who is this guru she speaks of?
सच कहा था गुरुदेव ने, वो छोटे बड़े में भेद नहीं करेगा.
How do Hanuman and Ram know each other before meeting for the first time? Who is Wali? I mean, seriously, which one of them is Wali? He doesn't have a single line of dialogue, by the way. Kumbhakaran's 6-month sleep cycle is never mentioned. Who the hell is this guy? I mean, seriously, look at him. He gets so much screen time, but he's never even named. If you have read the Ramayana, you'll probably know the answer to all of these questions. Now wait, before we pile on even more misery, let us acknowledge that Yugo Sako's Ramayana too suffered from this flaw. The important battle of Sugriv and Vali isn't even shown, it's just skipped over. Jamwant exclaims that he can circle the earth in an instant. That's astounding, but there is some serious lack of backstory here. Similar is the case with the unlocking of Hanuman's powers. But Adipurush was marketed as an introduction to the world of Ramayana for the newer generation, whereas your movie contradicts this by showing scenes, introducing characters, and mentioning character traits, which absolutely requires a prior reading of Ramayana to fully comprehend. In tandem, we have the sheer amount of unnecessary lore and details just to increase the runtime while adding nothing to the story. Ravan's statues come to life. Does he utilize these giant statues in his battle against Raghav? No, the statues do absolutely nothing later on, nor is there any explanation given as to why they awaken. Raghav tells Angad to show the spy their camp weapons and soldiers. This part is so asinine. I mean, Ram is supposed to be compassionate, but not like this. Also, even though the spy gathers all the information, none of this is actually utilized by Lankesh in any way. So what was the point of the whole spy scene? To show Ram's kindness? To show his confidence that no matter what details you gather, you won't be able to defeat us? This is one of the many half-baked scenes in the movie. The Jatayu chase, the Swarnamurg chase. So not Swarnamurg. The Jatayu chase, the Swarnamurg chase. While both plot points are necessary, the time given to these sequences is unwarranted. You could have easily shaved off 15 to 20 minutes to make it a tighter movie. Many reviewers bashed Adipurush's VFX.
Product borders on being cartoonish, with having little to no impact on you, as it feels like a poorly rendered video game that you're playing in a demo mode.
क्योंकि अब हम लोग आ जाते हैं प्रॉब्लम नंबर 3, इसका VFX. And VFX तो बात ही छोड़ दो मतलब पूरा cartoon VFX, seriously, cartoon VFX.
The clash of good and evil is played out in 3D in an unapologetically artificial digitized world. The battle scenes seem straight out of a video game.
Except I lied. The last review was for Tanaji. Let us listen to the complaints with regards to his first movie, Lokmanya.
त्यात फक्त खटकतात ते वापरले गेलेले VFX.
Remember that Om Raut had only directed 2 movies before being handed a 500 crore project. That is ambitious if not risky. A more experienced director with perhaps a better grasp on storytelling and especially VFX would have been more beneficial for this project. Lokmanya was successful because of Subodh Bhave's incredible acting performance as Tilak. The movie wasn't VFX heavy at all. Tanaji was successful despite the wonky VFX because the story had heart and passion behind it. I had said this in the opening lines itself. A movie with bad VFX can be successful. But a project with a scale as big as Ramayana, to capture its mythic lore and larger than life characters, you needed a top-notch job from the VFX team. You either have to give them enough time or enough money to produce quality output. The VFX studio behind Adipurush is Fractal Picture. If you look at their portfolio, it's not that impressive. The number of projects that they have done is minimal, and the most notable work that they have done before Adipurush was Bhoot Police, which isn't that noteworthy. Perhaps it was the inexperience of the studio which led to this debacle, but the ultimate responsibility lies with the director and or producer, so we can't really say who is at fault here. But looking at Om Raut's troubled relationship with satisfactory visual effects, I wouldn't be surprised if the blame fell on him. A quick aside, you must be wondering why I am being critical of Raut specifically and not of the other creatives involved. Well, you are allowed to make a bad movie, there's nothing wrong with that. But what irks me is not owning up to one's mistakes. Manoj Muntashir, the dialogue writer for Adipurush, has apologized to the public and has admitted that he was wrong. Even Saif Ali Khan acknowledged the film's failure. Prabhas hasn't said a word. He's off to promote his next big budget CGI heavy mythological sci-fi Kalki. And what about Raut, you ask?
So when we say that Adipurush did not have such a great outing on the critics front,
but they made huge numbers.
It did a huge number. I mean, I don't want to quote for numbers, but it doesn't sound right. But
he's living in the land of delusion. Adipurush was a disaster at the box office. Own up to your mistakes. Your first two movies were good. It's okay to make a bad one. Raut once mentioned that he was inspired by the legend of Prince Ram and wanted to emulate it. Well, he clearly failed because with all the ceaseless comparisons with the legend of Prince Ram, let us talk about the man behind the movie, Yugo Sako. Raut claims that it is impossible to understand Ramayana. Well, Yugo tried. And did he try hard? Yugo Sako was fascinated by India and paid more than 40 or 60 visits to the country depending on the source you choose. During these visits, which spanned a decade, he became more and more mesmerized by the mythology and history of India. He read more than 10 different versions of the Ramayana to try and comprehend its themes. And finally, teaming together with Mr. Ram Mohan, the father of Indian animation, production began for Ramayana, the legend of Prince Ram. Made on a budget of $13 million, the production took 9 whole years in which more than 1 lakh hand-painted cells were utilized. Completed in 1992 and unfortunately released in 1993. Unfortunate because the religious climate during the time was especially tense and the movie had to be temporarily banned because of right-wing protests. What could have started an animation revolution in India came to a screeching halt, and so did the aspirations and ambition of a passionate Ram devotee. It did find success later on in multiple film festivals and TV screenings, but the movie will always remain an example of unrealized potential.
कथा तो वही है जो हम शुरू से सुनते आ रहे हैं, उसकी मूल भावना के साथ the basic feeling of the story remains exactly and 100% the same. Nothing has been altered.
Vibhishan actually being a spy would have been interesting, at least memorable in some aspect. Perhaps Raghav could have chosen Mandodari as the next ruler of Lanka, which would have been a suitable update to the story while keeping its soul intact. The refusal to take risk, this is what plagues mainstream Bollywood cinema, along with the lack of genuine, passionate, creative individuals.
Overkill. एक बंदे ने एक अच्छा आइडिया डाला तो सब 25 लोग उसके पीछे पीछे सेम चीज करेंगे हम लोग. अपने आप ओरिजिनल सोचना बहुत भारी पड़ता है, बहुत भारी पड़ता है. तो छापने में तो हम लोग माहिर हैं.
In their obsession with accuracy, they sacrifice the spirit of this epic tale. Yugo, unlike the makers of Adipurush, did deviate from the original Ramayana. But after his decade-long visits, countless interactions with historians, and reading nearly a dozen variations of this magnificent literature, he understood its essence. To reduce Ramayana to an action movie is a complete misinterpretation. This is a story about righteousness, about facing and beating unsurmountable odds through the power of truth and virtue. The fact that a 30-year-old movie is considered a masterpiece by modern standards is a testament to the hard work of hundreds of people who gave their all for this spectacle. In short, all the best to these guys.
जय लंकेश्वर जय राक्षसपति महाकाल जय जय.